Welcome back, everybody, to another deep dive. We're always trying to push the boundaries of language learning here. And today we're taking a look at a text that really flips the script on how to master English.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it says forget those vocabulary lists and grammar drills,
Hmm.
and instead focus on just two things, listening and reading.
Interesting.
But here's the kicker. It says we already have what we need to be fluent. It's like our brains are these untapped supercomputers just waiting to be programmed.
Wow, that's a powerful image. I'm really curious to unpack this. What jumps out at you?
Well, I think what really grabs me is how it challenges that traditional translation habit. It's like it's encouraging us to think in English from the get-go, no middleman.
Right. It's about breaking free from that mental translation process and really immersing ourselves in the sounds and rhythms of the language.
So instead of constantly translating back and forth, we're kind of creating this direct link between the English sounds and their meanings, almost like rewiring our brains.
Exactly. And the text really emphasizes the importance of listening for the language itself, not just for the meaning.
Right. So it's not just about comprehending the words. It's about tuning into those sounds, the intonation, the way words are woven together. It's almost like we're becoming sound engineers dissecting the music of English.
That's a great way to put it. And the source even suggests using technology to kind of supercharge this process, like recording and replaying snippets of really high quality English.
So we're creating our own curated collection of audio masterpieces,
Yeah.
training our ears with those beautiful sounds and rhythms.
Yes. And I've actually seen this firsthand. I had a group of students who were preparing for a challenging English exam, and they decided to try a unique experiment.
Really?
Yeah. They took one CD of inspiring speeches and listened to the same 5 minutes every single day for 6 months straight.
Wow, 6 months. That's some serious dedication. What was it about that repetition that made such a difference?
Well, the content itself was definitely motivating, but it was the repetition that really allowed them to absorb the nuances of the speaker's delivery. The sounds, the intonation, the way they phrased things.
So they weren't just passively listening. They were actively imprinting those patterns onto their brains, like athletes training their muscles. It's almost like a form of linguistic meditation.
It really is. And the results were incredible. Their pronunciation became clearer, their sentences flowed more naturally, they were no longer translating in their heads, they were starting to think in English.
That's so powerful. It really highlights how even small, consistent efforts can lead to massive changes. Like we're slowly but surely programming those mental supercomputers.
Exactly. And this leads us to another key element of this approach, imitation.
Learning by imitation. It takes us right back to those early childhood days when we were just sponges soaking up everything around us.
Well, the text uses this really vivid example of a child observing a banana seller and perfectly mimicking their words and intonation. It's a powerful image, isn't it?
It is. It reminds us that we all have this innate ability to absorb language.
Exactly. And this approach encourages us to tap back into that innate ability, to bypass all the overthinking and let our brains do what they do best.
So we're hitting the reset button, rediscovering that childlike capacity for language acquisition.
Precisely. It's about trusting the natural learning process and letting our brains do the heavy lifting.
I love it. So we've got these two powerful tools, listening for the language and embracing imitation.
Yeah. And the key is to weave them together, to create this rich tapestry of sound and rhythm that will shape our English fluency.
It's like we're composing our own linguistic symphony.
Exactly. And the more we immerse ourselves in that symphony, the more naturally and effortlessly we'll be able to speak English.
So it's about creating a soundscape, surrounding ourselves with the beauty and music of English.
Yes. And as we do that, we start to internalize those sounds and rhythms, and they become part of who we are as English speakers.
That's incredible. I'm already feeling inspired to put this into practice.
I am too. It's amazing how such a simple approach can have such a profound impact on our language learning journey.
Well, I think we've just scratched the surface here. I'm excited to dive deeper into this text and see what other treasures we can uncover.
Me too. There's so much more to explore.
Absolutely. Let's see what else this unconventional approach has to offer.
Sounds good. You know what really struck me was how this approach encourages us to kind of savor the language, go beyond just understanding the meaning.
Like appreciating the flavor of the words themselves.
Yeah. developing a sensitivity to the nuances, almost like a wine connoisseur, right?
Ah, discerning those subtle notes. I like that.
And it's crucial for truly mastering English. It reminds me of this point the text makes about interviewing English lecturers.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
It's fascinating, isn't it, how some lecturers, even with impressive qualifications, struggle to actually speak fluently.
Right. It seems almost counterintuitive, doesn't it?
It does. It highlights that knowing the rules and actually using the language are two different things.
So it's not just about the head knowledge. It's about integrating it into our communication, into our lives.
Exactly. And the text suggests that just listening to good quality English every day can really enhance our spoken language.
It's like immersing ourselves in a linguistic spa, letting those correct patterns wash over us.
Precisely. It even suggests incorporating it into our routine, like a prayer or meditation.
Oh, wow, that's interesting. Starting the day with a dose of beautiful English, it's like setting the tone.
It is. And it ties back to that Bhagavad Gita quote we talked about, whatever you do, do it well.
Right, that's so true. Applying that to language learning means making it intentional, not just going through the motions.
Exactly. And the source reminds us that we, particularly Indians, have this natural ability for languages.
Right, we've got that multilingual heritage.
So mastering English is like adding another tool to our belt.
Unlocking a potential that's already there. I love that idea.
And as we refine our listening, the next step is to really dive into reading, but not just skimming, deep, immersive reading.
Okay, this I got to hear more about. What does deep reading actually look like in practice?
Well, one technique is simply reading the same text multiple times.
The same text multiple times.
Yep. Each time you reread, you uncover new layers, like revisiting a familiar place and discovering hidden paths.
Ah, I see. So it's not about rushing through new material. It's about truly absorbing what we're reading.
Exactly. Pay attention to the structure, the vocabulary, the rhythm. Look up words, take your time.
Become a language detective. I like that.
And the text even mentions something interesting about posters.
Posters.
Yeah, they're everywhere, right? Advertisements, signs, they're all mini language lessons just waiting to be discovered.
So it's about being present, actively engaging with the language all around us.
Precisely. And speaking of unexpected sources, the text also highlights the works of Swami Vivekananda.
Okay, now this is really intriguing. How does reading his works connect to improving our English?
His writing is known for its beauty, clarity, and depth, full of rich vocabulary, complex sentences, profound ideas.
So we're not just passively absorbing language, we're engaging with ideas that challenge and inspire us.
Exactly. It's a win-win, expanding our vocabulary, deepening our understanding, and enriching our minds.
It's like learning English while simultaneously expanding our consciousness. I love that.
Right, and it reinforces that learning doesn't have to be a chore. It can be an enjoyable, enriching experience.
Absolutely. And it reminds me of another key aspect we haven't talked about in detail yet, imitation.
Yes. Imitation, often misunderstood. It's not just mimicking or parroting. It's about consciously absorbing the patterns of fluent speakers.
So it's about finding those models we admire, those who embody the kind of fluency we aspire to.
Exactly. And then really studying them, their pronunciation, their intonation, their pacing, everything.
Like deciphering the code of their fluency.
Precisely. And then the magic happens when we start consciously imitating those elements in our own speech.
So we're experimenting, playing with the language, trying on different linguistic personas, almost like actors.
That's a great way to put it. And remember, don't be afraid to make mistakes. They're essential for growth.
Right. Embrace those mistakes. They're just stepping stones to fluency.
And the source makes this great point that either we learn English well or we don't use it at all.
It's a call to commitment, isn't it? Recognizing the power of language and respecting it enough to truly master it.
Yes. And remember, we, especially Indians, have this remarkable capacity for language learning.
It's part of our heritage.
So we should embrace it, challenge those who doubt our abilities.
Show the world what we're capable of.
Exactly. It's about breaking stereotypes and exceeding expectations.
Proving that we're not just capable of learning English, but of excelling in it.
Absolutely. It's about claiming our space on the global stage.
I love that. A powerful message of empowerment.
It is. And with that, I think we're ready to move on to the practical side of things.
Okay, let's do it. I'm eager to hear what strategies we can use to actually put all this into practice.
Let's empower our listeners to unlock their full linguistic potential.
So we've covered a lot of ground, haven't we? Listening, reading, imitation. It's all about rewiring our brains for English fluency.
It is. Like we're training those mental supercomputers.
Right, exactly. But as we wrap up this deep dive, What would you say is the most important takeaway for our listeners?
That's a tough one. There's so much good stuff here. But I think the biggest takeaway is that we all have the capacity to become fluent.
It's not about some special talent. It's about having the right mindset and the right tools.
Right. And this approach gives us both. It's not just theory, it's about actually changing how we approach language.
It's about making English a part of our lives, not just something we study in a textbook.
Exactly. Creating that rich environment where we're constantly exposed to the sounds and rhythms.
Like a constant immersion, even if we're not living in an English-speaking country.
And remember, consistency is key. Even a little bit each day can make a huge difference.
Like planting a seed and watching it grow.
Exactly. And as we make those consistent efforts, we'll start to see real progress, which just fuels our motivation even more.
It becomes this self-perpetuating cycle of growth and fluency.
And as we get more comfortable, our confidence grows, our communication skills improve, and suddenly a whole new world of possibilities opens up.
It's like we're unlocking this hidden potential within ourselves.
And speaking of unlocking potential, I think it's worth highlighting the importance of choosing the right models for imitation.
Right. It's not just about imitating anyone. It's about being intentional about who we're learning from.
It's like curating our linguistic diet, making sure we're feeding our brains with high-quality input.
So if we really are learning through imitation, it makes you wonder, what models are we surrounding ourselves with?
That's such a powerful question to ask ourselves. Are they inspiring us? Challenging us?
Are they helping us become the best English speakers we can be?
Exactly. It's about taking control of our language learning journey.
Creating that environment that supports our growth.
And remember, it's an ongoing process. Our models might change as we evolve.
We might discover new voices that resonate with us, new styles we want to emulate.
The key is to stay curious, keep exploring.
To embrace the journey.
Exactly.
Well, I think this has been an incredible deep dive. We've explored some really powerful ideas and practical strategies.
I agree. And it all boils down to this. We all have the potential to master English.
We just need to tap into that potential and nurture it with consistent effort and the right mindset.
And remember, you have the power to unlock fluency. Start building that foundation today. Listen attentively, read deeply, imitate consciously, and watch your English soar.
Choose your models wisely and never underestimate the incredible capacity of your brain to learn and adapt. You've got this.